Hi, how are you all doing? Enjoying the conference?
Yes.
Yeah, looking forward to the break?
Yes.
Sorry. So hi, my name is Kenneth. I'm actually Danish, so I live here. And I am actually not working on Angular, but I do work on Chrome and on browsers. So I also currently mostly work on standards in the W3C, where I'm actually an elected member to the technical architecture group, overseeing like all the different specs and the architecture of the web. So I really love the web, and I just needed this picture to show the nice dinosaur. It's kind of like a unofficial Chrome logo. So I love the web because like the web has like amazing reach. It's also low friction, like everything starts by URL, right? It's safe, you don't worry about pages you go to. It's composable, you can embed like a tweet from inside another page. It's indexable, you have search engines such as Google and Bing and Alta Vista, that's not a thing any longer. It's also ephemeral, so it's not like when you install an app and there's like you always get updates whether you haven't used it for 5 years. Because like if you don't go to use the site often, like, all the data will just be removed. So everything basically starts at the URL and loads pretty quickly. So if you've been to a conference, I think like the last 2 years, 3 years, you've probably heard about progressive web apps. Who here has heard about progressive web apps? Yeah, everyone knows progressive web apps. So actually you can make web experience today that work offline, that load super fast and are responsive. So that's pretty cool. So the web platform is really an amazing place to be. Like we have this worldwide reach. It works across major OSs, architectures, and form factors. So if you were to develop a new product today, say a smart fridge with a screen, you could have apps and experiences just by leveraging what you have on the web. It also has a thriving open source system around it with libraries like Angular and React and whatnot. And we have a comprehensive set of APIs. You can even connect to Bluetooth devices. And it's performant, and you can create app-like experiences. So even today, we're getting like progressive web apps to desktop. So this is Chrome OS. So I'm going to this like Pinterest, not that I'm really using Pinterest. And then you can add it and install it. So suddenly it turns into this really app-like experience. So progressive web apps are not limited to your mobile phones any longer. They also work on the desktop. And we have this comprehensive set of APIs, geolocation, payments, push messages. But sometimes you do need a bit more power than that. People say, well, we have existing code bases, maybe written in C++, maybe need to do video decoding. It's not really what JavaScript is optimized for. So for this, we have WebAssembly. It's a new standard that is basically a portable, size and load time efficient format suitable for compilation to the web. So this means that in some cases, you can write your code in C and C++ or Rust and compile it to the web. But it's also interesting because there's a lot of companies out there that have legacy code bases. So that's really cool. So for instance, like Autodesk, they have this application called AutoCAD, which is very frequently used for like designing. And they took their code base and they brought like that to the web. It's currently only 2D, but this accounts for like 90% of all AutoCAD files. So it's pretty amazing that having that run in your browser. And that code base is 35 years old. So that's pretty amazing. So WebAssembly really solves a lot of real, actual problems, but sometimes you need more capabilities than that. Like for instance, AutoCAD, like when you're using it on your computer, you normally want your local files because they're big and maybe you don't want them in the cloud. So how do I like deal with local files? I don't have local file access on the web. So how do we bridge that gap between the capabilities of native app and that of the web? Well, this is Project Fugu. So Project Fugu is a new project done by the Chrome team at Google in collaboration with Intel, which is my employer, and Microsoft, basically trying to like bring the native or the web at the same level as native with all the different APIs, but do it in a way that it's still like you still like preserve privacy. It's still safe so that you can enter a URL and not be afraid that it will start installing viruses and whatnot. So if you want to know more about these APIs, you can go to this URL. It's like bit.ly/powerful APIs. Or you can even go to the Chromium bug tracker. Let me just go back and see some people taking a picture. So there we go. Or you can go to the Chromium bug tracker and just search for Fugu or Project Fugu. And you see that everything we're working at currently. So you might be wondering, well, this is all cool, but how are you bringing all these new features to the web? What is the process behind it? Because the web is based on standards. So if everyone just goes and makes a new API and put it on the web, that's not good, right? So what we do is that we talk to clients and people and come up with use cases. What are actually use cases? Like, for instance, auditors say, hey, we need file access support. Then we write an explainer, basically a document explaining why we need this, some of the different solutions to implementing it, even those that has been rejected, maybe some example code as well. Basically getting people involved and discussing the problem. Then we publicize it, we put it on the web, interacting with developers, talk at conferences, etc., like I'm doing here today. Then we iterate and come up and constantly improve it. We also take it to the tag, which I'm a member of, to also get the feedback from the technical architecture group of the web. Then after that, you look at like actually implementing it and turning it into like a real spec. So you move it to a spec. Then in the Chrome, we have something called an origin trial. So now we already have something implemented. We kind of have a spec, but we want users to use it. An origin trial allows you to sign up to use a new feature before it's available in the browser. So it is available, but only if you have a special token. So you go to a special site, you get a token. As long as that token is on your site, you can use it for that specific version of Chrome. So you can actually try it out with your clients and your customers. Then you can give feedback of saying, well, this was working great, that wasn't working so great, and we can iterate again, and then eventually ship it. So let's look at some of these things that we're working on in Chrome. So web share is actually already shipping in Chrome and even in Safari. So this allows you to basically go to a website and like share it to an installed application or share it to your tweet or messages, etc. But what is really cool is being able to create this progressive web app that can actually receive shares. So if you have, or like me, uses like Twitter as a progressive web app, it would be nice to go to a web page and say, I want to tweet this. And then from that web page, just selecting Twitter and tweet and add that data to Twitter. So this is what we call a web share target. And basically, if you're working with a progressive web app, you have a web app manifest, and all you need to do is to add a bit of extra code in your JSON file. It also, in the future, very near future, will allow you to exchange files, such as images, which is very popular. We also have the media session API that allows you to like show this like kind of special notification where you can control media playing, setting artwork, etc. And we have shape detection, because I hear a lot of companies, they like barcodes, especially if you have a company and you have some kind of stock, you want to track your products, or you have a conference, you want to like read these, well, then you can build a web application that takes advantage of this. Shape detection is not just for barcodes, though. It also works for identifying faces as well as identifying text. So the idea is that this would use like the code on your phone or in the OS already existing. So it can be hardware accelerated. Batching allows you to create these small dots on numbers, like unread email. Some people really like that, because like when you're creating an experience, it's all about re-engaging with your consumers, with your customers. Like you want them to open your app again and not forget about it. So having an icon on your desktop, showing a push notification once in a while, or showing one of these badges, that gets people interested. Like, there's something new happening here. Let me just click and see what's happened. Wakelock is something I'm working on myself. So Wakelock is the problem. Like, think about this. Like, I'm showing a presentation. Maybe I'm talking about this slide for 5 minutes, and my PC falls asleep. I would really like to avoid that. So Wakelock allows you to say, please don't fall asleep. Let the screen on, at least for a certain set of time, or like until I cancel it. And there's actually 2 different kinds of wake locks. So screen wake lock is one kind, the other one is system. So system is very interesting. This is not the first one we will ship. The first one we will try to ship is screen, because it's easy. But system would allow you to do something like navigation on the web. Currently, you cannot do a navigation app on the web because, well, you're using like geolocation, but you put your phone in your pocket, you're walking, well, screen is off, phone starts sleeping, you don't get GPS location, because you're not allowed to on the web. But with a system wake lock, you could like maybe run geolocation in a worker and say, hey, please like keep the worker alive. then it will show like maybe a notification on the screen. This is what we're still looking at, so that the user is aware that it's actually using your battery. And then maybe like, it will wake up and maybe turn on the screen when you need to turn. So this is very interesting. This is a very, very simple API. So as you can see, there's basically like a request function that can take an abort signal if you want to cancel it yourself. But actually it gets canceled in many, many cases. So if you switch to another app, it will drop the Wakelock. So there are many cases where it can be canceled. So this is still work in progress, but I expect this to be landing in Chrome soon, at least for a screen. So this is an example of how you could like keep the screen on for like say, I think like, what's it, 10 seconds. So you see I'm creating an abort controller. This is the new way of aborting things on the web. It has a signal because you can abort multiple things. So I'm asking for my Wakelock, I'm requesting a screen Wakelock, and I give it this signal. Then I do set a timeout, so after 10 seconds, I'm just going to abort it and cancel it. Very simple API, very powerful. But one of the APIs that many, many people are interested in is the file system. Because like you really want to access different files, right? So the way we're working on, actually for file access on the web, there are a lot of different specifications. First of all, we're toying with giving like install progressive web app unlimited storage, because like you're dealing with big files. Think if you have like a video editor. The second one we already saw like web share target, where you can share files. Then we have something like file handlers, where you can click on a specific file, maybe .doc, and it will open like a Google Docs, for instance. And the last one is actually being able in an app to say like, I would like to use this directory. For instance, think about Visual Studio Code. You want to use your project, so like, you can have access to this. So this would work on the web. It's actually implemented in Chrome today. But you have to do that every time you load the website. But if it's installed as a progressive web app, that app would be able to actually store the file handles in an IndexedDB or similar, and being able to not need to request it every time. For people that love hardware, you've probably seen Lars outside showing like web USB and web Bluetooth. A lot of these like IoT devices, they actually come with a chip that you cannot modify. It's just a serial connection. So with Web Serial, it allows you to also talk to these devices. Same thing with HID devices such as keyboard and mouse. They're being controlled by the OS, so normally you cannot access them using like web USB. And that exists also on top of Bluetooth and USB. So we're also working on enabling that so that you can work with different like mouse and headsets and whatnot, all these devices. Actually, one of the most requested devices that people want to get access to is a barcode scanner. Because all these barcode scanners you buy with USB, they're HID devices. They're basically like keyboards. So it would be very nice to use those on the web. Contact picker is very important, especially in the third world countries, to say, we're making a native app because we want people like creating these like mini social networks, and we want people to share it with their friends. We want their contacts. So this puts the user in front. The user will have to choose like what contacts they're sharing with the site, whether they're sharing name, email, etc. And this is like a small example of how it would work. So you basically say like, I want mail, like name, email, and telephone number. These are the only things you can get so far. We might expand that in the future. Whether you want more than one, like multiply or just one, then you ask for it, it will show a dialog, and the user's in control. In this case, the user selected me, and you get my email back. Not my phone number, though. Also, fund access is very important, especially for designers, and even companies, because you have these branded funds. So these are not always online, but when you're working locally, maybe with Google Slides, you might want to use your company funds without having that like installed somehow. So fund access will allow you to access all these local installed funds as well. So you might be wondering, like, when do we get to see all these different APIs? Well, it might slide a bit, but this is kind of like the current plan. So you see that clipboard support is coming soon. This is something I didn't talk about. This allows you to programmatically like add images and things to a clipboard. Shape detection was the barcode, and text scanning. Maybe text scanning might be postponed a bit. The batching, the Wakelock, contact picker, and see there's a lot of cool things coming along. So to learn more about progressive web project Fugu, we have like a code lab you can try. Some of these features are already implemented in Chrome behind the flag. And there's also the landing page. So with that, I only had 20 minutes, so I know you're looking forward to the break. So thank you, and any question, come talk to me in the break.